I mean, my favorite question when I look at strategy leans into the 80-20 rule. And that is 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your clients. So a lot of times we chase, I'm going to post this reel and 17 people liked it. And where in reality, if you had a conversation with one of your current clients and got a referral or extended their package, you would get to the same destination in terms of like a monetary goal, but you would get there quicker because the path is so much more streamlined.
Holly Haynes, welcome to Lazy Entrepreneur Podcast. Just to give our listeners a bit of a background, I actually interviewed Holly for my podcast, I think more than 2 years ago. It was a very nice interview, but the stupid person in me deleted the recording because I usually save. So when I record my podcast interviews, the recordings are automatically saved to my computer. So what I usually do is I transfer those recordings to my hard drive. And then what happened was I thought I had already transferred your recording along with other people's recording. And then I deleted the recording on my laptop and also deleted the trash folder. So there's no way for me to really recover the recordings. But that means that I'm gonna have another opportunity with you, Holly, and I love talking to you. I feel like you're very, you're very nice and you are expert in your field. And so I promise that I won't delete this recording. But anyhow, welcome to the podcast. When I interviewed you, it was called Master Delegator, and I rebranded my podcast this year to Lazy Entrepreneur. And now you're a guest for Lazy Entrepreneur, not for Master Delegator, which Master Delegator is also integrated in Lazy Entrepreneur podcast because we talk about delegation and stuff, like pretty much, just being lazy, not literally being lazy, but just being efficient in everything that you do. So Holly, we're going to talk about a very exciting topic for today that's very, I feel like, very valuable to our listeners. So before we talk about that, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me back. My name is Holly Haynes. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I have a business strategy background, and what that means is I help entrepreneurs grow and scale, but I like to say that I help you grow and scale in a way that puts your life first. The reason being is I worked in corporate strategy for 22 years. I didn't start my business until I was 41, I think. I don't know. It's been a minute. So I started a little bit later in life, and I really tried to lean into what I learned working for Fortune 500 companies, but really trying to apply that strategy to small business owners, because a lot of small business owners don't have that business background or maybe get intimidated by strategy. And so we try to make it, I like your lazy method, where it's very simple and not overcomplicated, and creating a path that allows you to have more time freedom, flexibility, and, probably the reason that you created the business that you have is so that you have more flexibility to do what you love instead of working 24/7.
Exactly. And I think with the success that you currently have right now, because you were able to retire your husband, right? I remember that from our previous discussion, and just being able to do that, you're not just giving freedom to yourself, but you're giving freedom and flexibility to other people as well. So we're about to end, the year. We're recording this, a few months before the year ends. And right now, my team and I were kind of busy just reviewing our results from this year and planning for our marketing strategy for next year and our operation strategy for next year as well. And I think it's a good habit to do, right? I'm not sure if all business owners do this. If you're not, I think you should, just reflecting on what happened this year and how you can go about next year and making sure that your goals are achieved. So in your case, since you provide coaching, I want to learn from you as well. And this is just not for me; it's also for our listeners. Of course, like what are the things? I think we can start with what are the things that we need to review in business that we really we must review before the year ends.
Yeah, well, I'm going to flip the model, and I actually do this quarterly. I don't put all the pressure on the year end or the beginning of the year, because I did that in corporate a lot, and I feel like it was super stressful. Like if you've ever done performance reviews or things like that, and it's like, oh, I waited all year, all 12 months to now finally look at this one thing. And so I have a process that we do every single quarter. And the first piece of that is what I call a look back analysis. And so we do it every single quarter. We have a business scorecard that we create, and I'm using fancy terms. It's not fancy. It's literally a spreadsheet. And, it's questions like, where did your sales come from? How many people are on your email list? Looking at your Google Analytics and seeing what's working, what's not working, what keywords are trending. Where did you spend money? Did you get a return on investment in that? How is your team doing? What does your schedule look like? And then I also ask personal questions, because I truly believe if you are running a business, you also have a life as well. Mm-hmm. And so I like to integrate the personal questions into it. What felt fun for you? What brought you joy in business? What do you never want to do again? That was a nightmare. We're not going to repeat that. Because the things that are working well, we want to keep going. And the things that are not, we want to pause and just say, okay, we need to shift this, or this needs to feel different. And so the scorecard or the look back analysis is probably something that most people maybe don't like to do because it takes a minute. It is data driven. But when you can track the trends over the period of a year instead of waiting until the last month of the year to do it, it's a lot more powerful. And I think it takes the pressure off, because you're like, well, I'm going to do it again in 3 months. And if I try something and it doesn't work, I'm not tied to it for 12 months, right? So it's every 90 days, we're really leaning into what's working, what's not working, what's fun for us right now. What do I really need to stop doing? And so it's just a checkpoint almost. And I think it takes the pressure off. So that's the first step. The second step actually has nothing to do with business, and that is I look at our calendar. So I have twin daughters who are 11. No, they just turned 12 last week. They're 12 now. But our calendar gets busy. My husband does a little bit of real estate work. I have multiple clients and things that I need to take care of. And then we have personal goals as well. And so we start every quarter and we sit down and we say okay, what do we want to do this quarter? What season is it? What do we want the holidays to look like? What do we want January to look like? What do we want spring break to look like? What does that look like? And then we layer in the business scorecard and say, okay, well, this isn't working, so we're not going to do this, but this is working. How does that fit in our schedule? So if as an example, that maybe you want to launch something, you want to rebrand your podcast, or you want to talk about a new program, or you want to hire someone, you're not doing it the first week of January, or the week that your kids are on spring break, or the week that you're getting back from a vacation. So it's much more aligned with when you're excited about doing the work, instead of the work is taking the goal or taking the time, and then you're fitting in your life sort of around it. And so I think of it as a puzzle, but I like to put the life priorities first, and then the business priorities fits around it. But because we have that scorecard that's guiding us, we're making decisions based on what's working. And so that's really where we start. It's really simple, but it helps identify where you're at, where you want to go. And I think most entrepreneurs don't do this. They will not do it every quarter.
Right.
And it's something that actually we teach inside our collective co-op. We sit down with you and we do it with you every quarter, because I think it's so important to look at what you already have. Like a lot of times you don't have to create something new, or maybe you just have to take like a little tiny shift. But if you didn't slow down to notice that, you wouldn't know that that's the step that you needed to take.
Yeah, I love that. And, just having, I love what you call it, look back analysis, and calling it a scorecard. I love that. So that is actually a good habit to have. So what we normally do as well, like before the year ends, like we plot all of our meetings. So we have our weekly meetings, with my team, with my core team, and then we plot our monthly business review. It kind of sounds corporate. Like if you have a different name for that you can recommend, let me know. We do like MBRs, and then so we set the meetings for the MBRs, and then for the QBRs, quarterly business review. It sounds so corporate. Oh my gosh. But we do that, and I think it's a good practice to have to really have the right goals as well, that you need to take a look at. But in your own opinion, like what is that one thing, or maybe this can be a couple of things, what is that thing that is non-negotiable for a business owner to look at in their business?
Yeah. I mean, the one example that you gave is, I think the method that I'm talking about is like a step above, not as in better, but like the first step. And then your monthly team meetings are like the second step. So you want to make sure that you do these like quarterly reviews sort of like in a vacuum. And I don't mean like take a whole day. It could take 2 or 3 hours to do it. And then you've got like your monthly meetings that sort of tie into that. I mean, my favorite question when I look at strategy leans into the 80-20 rule. And that is 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your clients. So a lot of times we chase, oh, I'm going to post this reel and 17 people liked it. And, this one went viral and this one didn't. And I need to post 17 pieces of content, where in reality, if you had a conversation with one of your current clients and got a referral or extended their package, you would get to the same destination in terms of like a monetary goal, but you would get there quicker because the path is so much more streamlined. And so I definitely
leads already.
Yes. And so I think a lot of times we get this like analysis paralysis because there's so many different ways to run a business, which is amazing. But it's like, let's use the one that works best for you. And what works best for you is not necessarily what works best for me. And so really looking at, okay, this last quarter or even this last month, like where did my clients come from? Where did my best podcast interviews come from? Where did my best leads come from? And lean into that. And it'll shift over time as it does. But I really just like to lean into what's working. I feel like the rest can just be put on pause for a minute.
I love that. And I actually went to your website before our interview, and it's on top of your website, and there is a phrase there that I really like. It says, without chasing trends. So helping women entrepreneurs land consistent, high-paying clients without chasing trends, posting daily, or getting caught up in the social media circus, right? And I totally agree about, with what you said. It doesn't mean it worked for other people. It doesn't mean it's gonna work for you, especially if you're a different industry. Right. So sometimes it's easy to go online and compare ourselves with other entrepreneurs, right? And there's a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners out there. They're not fancy on social media. They may not even have a social media presence, but they're millionaires, they're billionaires, right?
Right. Yeah. You just don't know what people's background is. And so I don't know. I mean, like I said, I started my business when I was older. I don't have a TikTok account. My kids don't have social media. But there are other ways that you can grow and scale. If you want to use those tools, great, but you don't have to. And if they're working for you, continue to use them and don't feel like you have to try 20 other things.
I love that. So based on the business owners that you have helped so far, have you noticed any common patterns when it comes to getting a high paying client successfully? Like, where did they come from?
I mean, in terms of what I've seen, most high ticket clients come from relationships. They're not going to come from clicking on a reel that they hear you from the first time. Now, they might find you that way, but I believe that there needs to be some depth to your content behind the scenes. So maybe they find you on social, but how do they get to know you? How do they trust you? Like, someone's not going to hand over $10,000 if they don't have like a significant amount of trust for you. So, how can you share testimonials? How can you share conversations like this where they can hear your voice? They can see you, like seeing your face and who you are as a person. And probably, you don't have to share your entire personal life, but share like, what you do and what you like, and be a real human. Like, that's where the high ticket clients come from. And it takes a minute to sort of build that content library so that it's there. But it's not hard, right? It's not hard. And I think a lot of times I work with a lot of women who have a pretty significant corporate background. And I think we forget that our life experiences are really valuable. So sharing your story and where you came from and what you did to get where you're at makes you relatable. And so that's what we lean into a lot. In terms of like how to attract the right client. Like, most of my clients know that I have twins. I mean, I think they all do at this point. They know that they like Irish dance. They know they're in middle school. They know, I mean, if you're on my newsletter, they got braces last week, and it has been a hot mess.
Braces, they're expensive.
So it's like, yeah, we're like, why did we make the decision the first like few months of middle school to get double braces? And then as an entrepreneur, it's like a huge expense. And so these are things that I share. They have nothing to do with like what I teach in my programs, but people are like, oh my gosh, like I can so relate to that. Or my week was crazy too. Like I get that. And so that's where almost all of our sales come from, is people listening to the podcast or reading blogs or reading our emails or seeing my face or hearing me talk. And that's what I've seen with our clients as well. And it takes a minute. I mean, we're in a season where you've probably heard it say before, we need another word for it, but the trust recession. Like, there are people out there that are selling things that are not good. And for those of us that are selling things that are good, like, we have to clean up the mess. And so it takes a second for people to trust you. And I think I've really just leaned into that and been very open and upfront of, here's what we offer. Here's how we offer it. Here's who I am as a person. Like, maybe I'm for you, maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Right.
And that's really what we've leaned into. And that's really the foundation of what we teach.
I love that. Relationships, one mentor actually said this to me early or late last year. He said, with the rise of AI right now, everybody can do anything online now. And he said, what can be replaced? It's relationship with other people. It's being, collaborative with your clients. It's being there for them, showing empathy, right? And all of those things, it's part of having a relationship, with somebody, with your client, because you cannot be collaborative, or you cannot be successfully collaborative with someone, or you cannot be that much, empathetic for someone if you don't have a relationship, right, with your client. Okay, so those are really awesome insights that you shared, Holly. How about for starting the new year ahead? Like, what is one thing that you would leave our listeners when it comes to just making sure that they start the year right, aside from what you have shared already?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it took me, I'm almost 47, and I feel like it took me 47 years to realize this, but I don't put any pressure on the start of a new year. I have like taken all pressure off. Going back to what we talked about, we plan every 90 days. And I say plan, but like, it's a repeatable process. It's way less stressful than waiting till the end of the year. I also have really leaned into seasons. I live in Ohio. it is cold and dark and gray in the
We're in
winter.
hibernation mode now.
And I like have fully embraced hermit mode. I really got into human design, and my like personality is I like to talk and I like to be external, but I need time to recharge. And so I was like, okay, well, what a better time to recharge when it's literally like dark outside at noon in Ohio. And so I really use January as like my recharge month. Like it's blocked off, like the whole month is blocked off on our calendar right now. And I realize for some people that's impossible. And I don't mean like my kids aren't going to school and things like that. Like we have life things that happen, but I usually will say no to like big projects, and I give myself space to just like re-energize. And I like to really think of it as like seasons. And so when you think of winter, it's like recharging and hibernating, and maybe it's reading, maybe it's learning something new, maybe it's working on like a website project. Or last year I taught myself how to build ChatGPT bots. That's what I did in January. And it's like changed our business. And so you don't ever know like what's going to come out of it. And then you think spring, like, what does that look like? It's like, okay, the flowers are blooming and like it's starting to get a little bit warmer and you're getting a little bit more energy. And then in like summer and fall, you're like full go, let's go. And I don't know if you feel it, but like in October and November, then I'm like, okay, like I'm ready for a break. Like I'm ready to slow down. And so I've really leaned into the seasonality of where we live and like what my personality is. And it's different for everyone. So if you're listening, you're like, what does this mean? Like go run your human design chart and it will tell you. But also like take the pressure off. Like you don't have to have everything done by December 31st, and you don't have to have everything ready to go by January 1st. The calendar is made up. So like make up your own calendar, like pick a date that works for you.
Yeah, I love that. And, you're really living a freedom-filled lifestyle, like very flexible. You control your calendar, and it really seems like, you really put your personal goals first, and that includes your family, of course. And then second is your business. So your business, it adjusts to your personal goals. Like you make sure that your personal goals are the most important than the business. And I love that. And so how did you get to that point? Because I'm sure most of our listeners, the reason why they're listening to this podcast is because they want it to have freedom and flexibility, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure in the beginning, and you didn't have much of the freedom and flexibility that you have right now. So how did you get to this point?
It's baby steps. I mean, my schedule is vastly different than it was like 5 years ago, but when I started my business, I was working full time. So it was a very different time. However, my goal was, okay, well, what if I just didn't have meetings on Monday? Or what if I just didn't have meetings on Friday? Like it's extremely different than what I do now, but it's like, what is like one little teeny tiny thing that would make you feel like, okay, we're making progress, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I'm still in my corporate job, I'm building this business. Like if I could just not have meetings on Monday morning, like I would feel really excited about that. And so it's just like taking like one little tiny step. Or it's like, okay, after this podcast, I'm going to go block out the first week of January. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to work. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do things, but I'm just going to block it out so that if I want to take a week, the first week of January to like get my act together and feel good about the next quarter, then I have space on my calendar. And so it starts with like really little intentional steps, and then they sort of build on each other. So first I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have meetings on Monday? And then I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have meetings on Friday? And then it's like, well, wouldn't it be great if I could like work part-time and build my business part-time? And then wouldn't it be great if I could just build my business full-time? And so it's just like, I kept adding on. But that's how we got there, was like little teeny tiny steps that we looked at every single quarter.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're able to do that because you have people supporting you as well. You have team members. So when you're like, let's say out of office, like who takes care of the business?
Yeah, well, there's two ways that we do it. So when I first started, I didn't have a big team. And so I knew that I had to build systems that sort of did the heavy lifting for me. And I will be honest, like even that's changed in the last year with AI and sort of all the ways that things work. So we rely heavily on email and automation so that if somebody new comes into our world, like they get a nice warm welcome and I don't have to be sitting at my computer pushing that out. So we're really big into building that client experience, but making sure that it's automated so it's not somebody having to do it. And then we really lean into, from my business model, we have what I call a signature program, a signature method, and that's like the core of everything that we teach. And all of our content and everything is around that, but all of that can be scheduled. So if I want to be out of the office, which I will be like in December for 2 weeks, and then my new rule is the first week of January, like I will schedule things ahead of time and I'll pause things that don't need to be done. So it does, just because you've always done it doesn't mean that you always need to do it, right? So there's a lot of systems, there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of planning, and then we do have people that can help as well. And I think one of the things that I really leaned into early on was when you go hire somebody, you don't have to hire them for a full year right away. Like hire them for a project, hire them for a season, like give them an opportunity to help you and show you like how they can help you. And then that can turn into something bigger. So if I know that we have a season where I have some big goals, but it doesn't really match like what our personal goals are, then I start to think, well, is there something I can automate? Is there something I can delegate? Does it make sense to do it? Or can I hire somebody to help me? And again, that's really why that like 90-day plan is so important, because what you plan now is going to be so different 6 months from now, that it gives you a chance to adjust.
Right. I love that. And, those things that you shared are really, really good. But some people, it's hard for them to let go. They feel guilty when they take a day off. Heck, if it's a 1 month off, I don't know what they're going to do with their guilt, so what kind of advice would you give to those kind of people? Like they want to let go, but somehow they need to change something, when it comes to, their perspective, mindset, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite book around this is called Who Not How. And it's basically, if you think of any successful person, it's calling out that they have an amazing team behind them. Like it's impossible for one person to do everything. And I think outsourcing can look different. If, as an example, I just 5 years in gave somebody on my team access to a small portion of my inbox. And this was like something that I was like hanging on to for so long, because I was like, well, no one can answer emails better than me. Like no one can. That's a lie. They probably can answer it better than me, but it was like really important to me that I see every email. So it took me a minute, but we've come up with a process where I see the emails and I see the responses, but it's not necessarily always me responding to this like specific section of our inbox. And it's probably saved me like 4 to 5 hours a week. And I held on to it for so long because I was scared that somebody was going to respond the wrong way, and so I think it's, finding the right person, and then you have to work your way up to the thing that you want to do.
I love that. It's always starting slow, right? Like working your way up and finding the right person to do it for you as well. Because I think that is very crucial, because like what you said earlier, we are in a way in a economy where trust is depleted, right? Mm-hmm. And so having the right person to help you manage your inbox, especially if you are receiving very important emails, you don't want to lose any of those emails, and creating a process for that specific task or responsibility as well is very, very important. So as we wrap up, Holly, so I asked my previous guest to ask you a question, my next guest. And the question is there anything you've done in your life that if you had to do it again, you wouldn't?
Yeah, this is a really good question. My gut answer is no, because I am a huge believer of things happen for a reason. And if they turn out the way that you don't think they should, there's probably a reason for that. And usually it gets you to maybe a better place than what you could think. I use this example a lot with like launching. Like I always say every launch is successful because you're putting something out there. It's leading you to what your next step is. And no matter what happens, you would never know what the outcome or the next step would be unless you went through those steps to learn it. And so the short answer is no, but I think there's always learnings in why things happen. And I really try to lean into like, okay, this didn't exactly go as I planned, but like, how can I learn from that? Or is there something that I can do to improve, to do things differently going forward?
I love that. I love that. Or sometimes we're like in the middle of it, you know, of if we're in when we're in the middle of that situation, you know, sometimes there's a tendency to say, oh, I don't want to do this again, blah, blah. But after you have processed it, you're like, oh, I'm glad it happened, you know, because I learned something.
Exactly.
I love that. So what question do you want to leave or ask my next guest?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am really into currently, like, I really like to know what people's schedules are, but I also, because I feel like I can learn from like, well, what does a typical day look like for you? Because I think as a business owner, I'm always like, well, how does that work? Or like, how do you do that? So I would love to hear like, what does a typical day in the life look like?
I love it. I'm curious to know as well. All right. So Holly, where can people find you online if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, hollymariehaynes.com. We also have a podcast called Crush the Rush. It's been around for, 5 years. We have over 600 episodes, and so there's a ton there that you guys can listen to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.